Well, how do? Good morning. Welcome. I am your host, Douglas Burns, and this is Frame Perspectives, where we talk about entrepreneurship. We talk about building businesses. We talk about photography because that's what I do, and all kinds of fun things. And we're here hanging out. And with me today is the infamous. We're gonna make him famous.
Infamous.
Make you famous. Lee Jones, host of the Highlight podcast, Hindsight podcast, and who's got just an incredible background and incredible experiences and having worked in the military and now in civilian life. And we're going to talk about leadership, and we're going to talk about transitioning from the military to civilian life and all those lessons that he's learned and how we can apply them as entrepreneurs, building our businesses. And so, Lee, man, thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate you, Doug.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure, my pleasure. So let's I tell you what, let's jump right off the bat.
All right.
And give us just a brief CV of your military background, since that's where you spent a quarter century of your life. Guys, this man spent 26 years in the military. Hats off, man.
I told you that.
Just real briefly, what was that? What was your background in the military? How'd you jump in? A little bit about what you did and your biggest life lesson learned after 26 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
small question.
So I joined the military when I was 20 at the time. And for me, thinking in hindsight, I believed that I needed some discipline. So I joined the military at that time. I went in, and I say discipline because, and I'll give you a small example. I would wake up in the morning from staying up all night and just call in at work saying, "Hey, I'm sick. I can't come in." And I would do it pretty frequently, right? Or stay up and talking on the phone all night, whatever the case. And so, just from little examples like that and understanding that I lacked a little discipline, and I had a really good job. I was a architectural drafter at the time and a structural drafter. So I was doing really good after high school, and I knew I needed some discipline. I saw the news, I think the first Kuwaiti or Iraqi, whatever it was at the time, Operation Freedom or something like that was going on. I saw it on the commercial, the people jumping on the planes, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then eventually I went to the recruiter to talk about it. And to his credit, I did have a child coming. So recruiter talked to me and he was like, hey, I think, because I was going to go infantry because I was thinking about being a cop. And he was like, I think you should go supply. And that's because that's more like a 9-to-5 job. That's what a 9-to-5 job, right? So that's what he told me.
9 to 5 in the military. I'm trying to make that connection. I don't know that really. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I went in and went through basic, went through AIT, and then I got my first orders on where I was going to be assigned. And I'm from Maryland, and so I was assigned to Alaska, a combat engineer unit in Alaska in 1990. So it was it was a surprise because I never really considered Alaska. Like I honestly, at the time, Doug, I thought that there were horses and igloos, no cities. Like I mean, I was that naive to different places.
Well, I mean, honestly, in parts of Alaska, that's not far from
It's still there.
Where in Alaska you are. I mean, I don't know about horses, but I mean, yeah, no, it's look, I've been to Alaska. It's gorgeous. But yeah, there are parts that can be that remote, and I could easily see the military sending somebody there and being have fun.
Hey, when I got there, I'll tell you my first greeting. We were on the airplane and the pilot comes on and he was like, hey, welcome to Anchorage, Alaska. It's a mild -5 degrees outside. Ooh. And that was my hello, you are really in Alaska. But it turned out to be a great place. There was a mall, an ice skating rink. I mean, it was modern. It was nothing like I thought.
Yeah.
But then I ended.
Yeah, you've never been to Anchorage. It's a great town. It's a small town. I mean, I was really surprised at how small Anchorage really is. It's a very walkable city.
Yeah.
It is. It's a fun town.
But with that being said, I was in
Yep.
Anchorage for 4 days, and then they assigned me to a unit up at Fort Wainwright, which is up in Fairbanks,
Okay.
Alaska.
Yeah.
A little different, but still was fine. So I went through all of that, and I tell you what, one lesson or one thing that I like to tell you is that I'm super happy as a supply guy that I went to Alaska first, because I went to a combat engineer unit, and it really gave me a taste of Army life, meaning being in the field, training hard, doing all the things that you expect are happening in the Army. I had to be a 60 gunner, so I was super scrawny at the time, and they give me this big crew serve weapon that I had to lug around, and then I had to give overwatch protection for the guys that were breaching obstacles. So it was everything that you thought the Army would be in my first year, and it really opened my eyes up. And the reason why I say this, and I'm not going to stay on this too long, but the reason why I say that is because there are units that aren't like that in the Army. They are just like that 9 to 5 that recruiter told me about. And when my next unit, I went to a military police unit in Maryland, and it was 9 to 5. And then I had to go back to Hawaii.
Oh, poor baby.
Well, Hawaii, my wife enjoyed it, but Hawaii, I was in a light infantry unit.
Yeah.
So we were out training, we were out deployed, we were out doing missions. So it was crazy. And as a supply guy, though I'm not responsible to do a lot of the training that they do, I am responsible to do a lot of training that they do. And that's part of that resilience, and that's part of that getting you know, being a part of that type of organization. You have to prove yourself that you can do what it is that needs to be done, and then they'll let you do your regular job. So it was a lot of growth in that in Hawaii as well. So yeah, now I did 26 years. I made it to Sergeant First Class. Retired. I made some decisions that didn't allow me to go further because kids were in school and I didn't want to go to these different units. So that's part of the E7 instead of the E9 path. But yeah, it was a great experience though.
Well, fantastic, and thank you for spending so much of your time doing that, because
Yeah.
anybody who knows anything about the military, it's not an easy life, and you're
Yes.
not making bank while you're
At all. At all.
it's a hard nut. And so for the guys who sacrifice like yourself, I never had the honor to serve, but I appreciate those like yourself who did. So thank you so much for that. You've spent so much of your time in supply,
Yeah.
which is a lot of logistics, and I think as entrepreneurs, that's an area that we don't think about a whole lot. What areas of logistics? What did you learn in logistics specifically that you have now? Because you've transitioned, you're now a civilian, living the high life. What kind of lessons did you pick up after a quarter century doing logistics for the Army that you've now taken into your work as a civilian?
I tell you what, even before going into logistics, just being in the basic training, logistics helps you to pay attention to the details. The small things do matter. And in basic training, one of the first things drilled into you is attention to detail. Whether it's how you fold your uniform or the way you make up your bed or how you hold your weapon, everything matters. And with logistics, everything matters, right? You really have to sit and think through all the steps to mission completion. So when you translate that into civilian, it just really into civilian life or civilian sector, it just really helps to have that mentality where you're actually looking and thinking about all the steps it's going to take to achieve whatever that objective is. And it takes some time, it takes a little practice, because ultimately you see the goal, and I'm not going to put this on anybody, but I can say me prior to when I was young, so maybe that has something to do with it as well. You're trying to get from A to B as quickly as possible, right? And you miss a lot of the different nuances and steps that are going to help you get there easily. And if you go about it not really thinking about paying attention to details and the small things matter, you're going to start going off, and it's going to take you double the time, triple the time, or you may not even be successful. So just attention to detail is probably one of the bigger things that I've learned. We've done a lot of missions. going out and failing a lot of times and being good with failing, being uncomfortable and being good with being uncomfortable. Those are some lessons as well, right? Because you'll start to learn as you fail. That's the one good thing about the military. You know, you do things over and over and over and over and over again. And sometimes you're going to fail. It just is what it is. That's just life. And not giving up. You can't in the military. You got to keep going. So just having that perseverance, that determination, and that goal, you know, that success goal in mind is probably the bigger lesson.
Well, you mentioned something that I think is important as entrepreneurs we tend to forget is
Yeah.
failure is part of the process.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a matter if, it's when and by how much. And then what do you learn from that failure? What was the mistake? Can you identify what that mistake was, and what lessons can you learn from it? Right. So
Right.
it's just part of being in business. It's part of serving in the military. Obviously, it's a part of life. But you know, being comfortable with failure, that's a hard thing to remind ourselves as entrepreneurs.
Yeah. And I tell you what, one of the things that the military had us do was after each mission, after each, and mission doesn't mean you got to go over to some foreign country, right? It can just be moving some supplies from one building to the next. You know, whatever that mission, whatever that goal is that you're trying to achieve, when we got done, we did an after action review and we assessed things that we did well, things that can be better, and you know, things that didn't go so well. And from that, you take that same type of philosophy and you can apply it to yourself. So when you start to fail, or you believe you failed, right? You've done something and it didn't turn out the way you wanted to, then you go in and you look internally. You do an after action review on yourself and just take a look and see, well, what could I have done better? What could I have communicated better? What choice could I have made better? Right. So that the next time this happens, I'm in a better space mentally to make the proper decisions, to make the proper communication style, you know, whatever it is to promote a successful mission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's, and how many of us do that on a regular basis?
I know I do.
Well, I'll be honest with you, it's not part of my, operating procedures. You know, how, do I reflect on, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
what happened that day?
Yeah.
You know, I'll be honest, I don't. I mean, as an entrepreneur, I'm lucky to finish the day by 7 o'clock at night, and then it's
Be done.
crash, right? And then get up. And am I planning the next morning? And that's another question I wanted to ask you. How much time did you spend while you were serving in the military, but also now that you're working and doing your day job?
Mhm.
How much time do you spend planning out what that mission, whatever your mission is, before actually implementing it? How deep into the details, into the processes, into the systems do you put into place before putting it into action?
Yeah.
And
So for me,
and how important is that to the success and or failure of the mission itself?
yeah. So in in the military it's a little different, but now I walk my dog every morning and I kind of mentally walk through my day. Now, what I've understand just going through life and living life for all these years is that, you can plan your day, you can plan an event, you can plan a vacation, you can plan anything, and it's not going to turn out exactly how you visualize it, right? But that mental picture, that exercise of just going through the day really helps you prepare for what that day should look like from your perspective at that moment. And then it also allows you to understand and know when you start to veer off a little bit, right? And then you can get back on track. So for me, usually when I walk my dog, we walk about an hour in the morning. I go, mentally go through my day and try to prepare for the things that absolutely have to get done. I'm not saying I do that for an hour, because sometimes I'm listening to an audio book or doing these other things. But just a brief, hey, my day is getting started. This is what I want to accomplish today. And you make sure that stays in the forefront, because there are going to be other things, other distractors that are going to come in and kind of distract you from your ultimate goal.
All right. So just because the question is going to get asked, what kind of dog?
I got a Shih Tzu. I got a little Shih Tzu, Jasper.
Oh, there you go. I would
Yeah.
not have picked you for a tiny dog man.
Well,
Or is that your wife's choice?
it was my daughter's choice actually.
Okay.
So, she has allergies and it's a hyperallergenic dog. Super cute dog too. And then it just makes it's easier to have it indoors. I remember having outdoor. Can I tell you something? Can I be?
Absolutely.
So I'm from Baltimore, and we had a dog, and this stayed with me. We had a dog, Princess, and Princess was a big dog, and Princess had to stay outside. And I remember one day as a kid, probably about 12 years old, looking, because I had a little balcony that I could look out of my room, and there were like rats outside, a lot of them, because it was like trash day, and I used to just think, man, dogs, from my perspective, don't need to be outside, at least in the city where I was in.
Right.
And that I think that visual kind of stuck with me. You feel me? So when we got the dog, I wanted it to be a dog that's going to be inside and I'm outside, or my wife or my daughter is outside when they're outside. So that's just a little bit about me. I'm from Baltimore, so it was kind of crappy back then. It's a lot nicer now.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, Baltimore had a reputation. There's no question.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see the city's on the rebound. There's a lot.
Right.
It has a lot going for it, and people are definitely top of that list. So I'm glad to see that the city's rebounding. No, I get you. Look, my dog. I probably should take my dog out for a walk every day. She's very happy sleeping on the pillow on top of the couch, on top of just whatever the soft spot is.
What kind of dog do you have?
So she's a dachshund mix. We picked her up from Pound. So we used to, our dog prior to Peanut was another mutt, but she was of the hound variety and just too much animal for us. And she caused a couple of broken ribs, a couple of fractured wrists, a couple of fractured elbows. Yeah, too much dog. Loving dog,
but just big.
Just too much.
Yeah.
So Peanut's the right caliber. She's like, just where's the soft spot?
Yeah, I know that's that's awesome. That's awesome.
So she's great. She's great.
Dog lovers here. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't like dogs, I gotta wonder about you.
I know.
I know. It's how do you not like dogs? I mean, I get if they're like, you might be big dog versus small dog, but I mean,
yeah. I like them all, to be honest with you.
As long as they're friendly.
I like them all. Yeah. I mean, they're like people. They have temperaments, so you just got to be aware of that. But yeah, I like them all.
Well, so what was your transition like after 26 years in the military? Because that's a career in any field.
Yeah.
And then you transition to civilian. What was that transition like for you? And tell us what you're doing now.
It was right now. Well, okay. How was the transition? Transition was fine on the surface, So I got out in October 2017, and I was working at my new career February 1st, 2018. And understanding that when I got out, I was still getting paid from October through the end of December from the military. So I really didn't have to do anything but just kind of prepare and, find a place to live. But it worked out really well, but mentally it was not well with me inside. So some of the lessons that I've learned and I try to convey to others who are about to get out is to, plan ahead, accept that your identity is changing. And then the biggest thing is to get your team together. You got a team of people when you're in the military, and you always say, hey, we'll be buds forever, right? But when you transition out, they still in military mentality. Now you're in civilian mentality, and there's a distinct difference. There's a big difference, coming out of there. So you got to plan and understand that, and you need to get your team together for when you get out. I was really lucky. I got with an organization called Cal Vet or Cal CT. I keep getting the acronym wrong, and I wrote it down someplace else because you see so many acronyms, right? But the bottom line was they had this course, and it walked you through the transition process. It walked you through interviews. You had mock interviews. It walked you through doing your resumes and star charts that kind of to the point that I made earlier about the person who was infantry and now he's a comedian, right? It walks you through those things so that you can visualize what is possible once you get out of the military. They were very instrumental in helping me with my resume. They were very instrumental in helping me to understand the importance of networking. It's easy to network when everybody's got the same uniform on and you see their name,
Right.
Hey, what's going on, Burns? That's all you need to know. It doesn't matter.
That's all you need to you see the rank, you see the name.
Exactly.
You know what department they're in. That's good.
That's it. But when you get out, right, you don't know who's that person, like you said, the rank and the department or whatever it is. You don't see that. You don't see how these people can benefit you or how you could benefit them, right? So there's techniques in networking, or bottom line is just getting out and networking, right?
Yeah.
Going to networking events. You said you went to one this weekend, right? Just the importance of it. And it's not to say, let me find out who's going to do this for me. It's to go out and make pure, genuine connections with individuals, right? And kind of tell a little bit about what it is that you do, and they tell you a little bit about what they do. And sometimes in the future, one of you may be able to help the other one out, right? That's the genuine, most pure approach to networking. It's just like finding a new friend, finding a new special person in your life, right? Whatever that looks like. And right now,
it's immediate, hey, I'm going to do business with you tomorrow. It's let's talk about who we are and get to know each other and learn about each other, maybe about our kids, about our dogs, whatever that connection may be, and just build that list of people that you get to know over the course of years. And it is years, at least it has been for me.
Exactly. I had an individual. Now, you say, hey, I just transitioned out of the military and I am, looking for an opportunity, blah, 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 whatever that spill is. And what happens is now you have a marketing team, right? So they may see someone or know someone who is looking for someone who has just your qualifications or a minimum of that, right? Hey, I really like the military, so I'm going to connect these two together. It works magically on its own, if you do it naturally. But for me, even on LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn for what it does, but I can't stand when someone says, hey, blah, blah, blah. And I say, okay, we can be friends. Hey, you want to do this? You want to buy this? You want to do, and it's just like, it turns me off. And then I just eliminate them, because let's build a relationship first. Don't hit me up selling me stuff like the you see, this is firing me up a little bit. So
it's no different than going to the Chamber of Commerce and just handing out your business card to everybody that you say hello to, right? I mean, it's kind of, it comes across as being desperate.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it. So anyway, I'm sure some of you, if you're doing that, just be more subtle. It'll work out. Trust me, networking is amazing. Go ahead.
Well,
and what I do. So
what are you doing now?
So right now, I'm manager of supply chain services. So I work for this distribution company, electrical distribution company in California. And I manage a small team of individuals who provide a vendor managed inventory service for our strategic customers. So it's a lot of words, but what we do is we go to customers who build things like, I won't name names, but we go to different customers and we make sure that they have the tools that they need in order to manufacture the stuff that we in the world, get to partake in. So yeah, pretty cool gig, actually.
Well, yeah. And I mean, and thankfully a direct relation to what you did in
the
military, really, that had to really prepared you for this type of role that you're doing now. I don't know that it's at least from the outside, if it's a huge transition for you, it sounds like you're pretty well prepared to step into that.
Yeah, and for me, and that's a funny word you say, prepared. For me, I didn't use. I told you internally it was a little stressful for me to transition, but I transitioned fine. I didn't use the star chart. Like I couldn't visualize myself doing something other than what I had done in the military. And so I looked for things that were the closest to it, just so I can have immediate success, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And it worked out beautifully for me because I absolutely love the company that I work for. And my biggest concern was mentality. So when I was in the military, It was always team focus, mission, goal oriented, all these different things. And I had the perception, sort of like Alaska, that once you get in the civilian world, it's a lot of cutthroat, backstabbing, people holding you back but smiling in your face type things. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but what I'm saying is I saw more of a team like family like environment within this company where we're all focusing on success. We're all moving in the same direction. So
You got a mission as a company propelling
yeah,
you forward, saying, hey, we're all working together to get to this one goal, which at the end of the day is going to benefit our clients, which it then benefits us.
yeah, exactly. And they even set up ways, 10, I'll put it out there. You may figure out who it is, but they have 10 principles that we go through, and we have training on this 10 principles, and it's so we can have better conversations. So like one of the 10 principles is just be in the moment. So when I'm talking to you right now, I should be talking to you right now, not doing the emails or, texting or anything. I'm in the moment, and I'm hearing what you're saying. You're hearing what I'm saying, and we're having a genuine dialogue between each other. Another one is just leveraging other people's realities and be, what is it? Be curious rather than judgmental. So you may say something to me, and the first thing, I go, what? No, what? Could you explain that? Let me come to you with curiosity, right? So there's no ambiguity, there's no resentment, there's no, anything like that going on. I want to know exactly what it is that you meant, and then we can go forward, right? So those are just 3 of them, but they have these 10 principles that we go through. We have training, we have 10 principal partners. And so it's just a great organization that takes even the beauty of how the military was a step further, because we know that a text message can be taken the wrong way. We definitely know an email can be taken the wrong way.
Absolutely.
And a conversation could be taken the wrong way. So just putting those things in place, I think, made a big difference. So,
well, how important then, and I want to circle back to something else in a minute on when you're talking about building your team, but we're talking about the mission and being mission focused and mission driven, having everybody that you're working with focused on that mission. Now you work for a larger organization. That mission's been defined for you. The military obviously defined your mission for you when you were serving. But how important is having that mission at the forefront of your mind as you go about planning your day, motivating your team that you manage, and being able to define success?
Yeah. So the bigger thing is just, from the military to this, and this is why I absolutely love this company as well, is have a clear mission and intent. Everyone must know what that goal is. You just spoke to that. And then we have to have ownership. So when I go through and I understand, because we have company meetings about every month, the president comes on and he addresses everybody in the company. So we know the mission, we know the state of the company, right? We know all of these different things. So when I go and I'm addressing my team with different mission goals or whatever it means, I'm trying to use military words, but it's simply, hey, what do you got to do today? And how can we get better? That's just how I look at things. I'm always looking at it. What can we do better? What do we do good? Who should I recognize, right, for doing an exceptional job? Everything starts at the top. And we actually have a mother company as well. So everything really starts with the mother company. And then it comes down through our president and all through the different departments. And that's how I start with my team. So I'm usually replicating or saying something that he says, again, using the same terminology, making sure that there's no ambiguity in what it is that we're trying to achieve, right? So I believe just having a clear mission, our company does a great job at that. Just laying it out on the line. This is it. And we're a business, right? So businesses are about making money. So we got to hit certain monetary goals in order to be successful. But how do we go about doing that? There's a lot of different departments, and part of that is departmental collaboration. So just getting together and working better together instead of in silos, right? Having a better customer experience, a better customer experience. So for me, like I said, clear mission and intent, owning it. So if you make a mistake, same thing in the Army, man. You just made a mistake. right? And unless you just squandered all the money in the company, it's not going to be horrible. It's not like being deceitful or being malicious. It's a mistake. And the thing I build into my team, you're going to make mistakes. I send you out to fight stuff, crime, save damsels in distress, fight alien, whatever it is. I send you out into the world every day, and you're going to encounter some things, right? Sometimes you're going to be very successful and you're going to wear that cape like the hero that you are. And sometimes you're going to fail. But when we fail, it's a lesson learned. It's not a true failure. So I don't want them to have the mentality that they didn't do well. You just came into something that you didn't understand. And now that's going to make all of us better. So that's how I approach, my team. And I believe a lot of the other teams in the company does as well. And hopefully that answers your question. And the last one is really to just train hard. Train hard like you're going to fight is what they do in the military. Like we train like we're going to fight. So when you do run up against some of these obstacles, some of these, things that happen in life and business, you're better able to deal with it,
So I want to come back
Okay.
and talk
And
about.
let me know, because I'll go on a rant. Let me know if I'm answering your question.
Trust me, I will jump in, and I will jump in. But I love letting. So for those of you who don't know, my background's actually in broadcast media. Even though I work primarily as a still photographer nowadays, I still work in that field. And I've worked with major networks. My very first job was working for a local news affiliate. If it bleeds, it leads, and 3 a.m. phone calls because somebody got drunk at the local bar. And no, I'm very happy not to be doing that. I've spent a lot of time behind a camera. This is, for me, being in front of the camera is actually a really new experience. But listening to some of the top guys do interviews, right?
Okay.
And one of the things I've learned is got to let the people that you're interviewing talk.
Okay.
It drives me nuts when I watch the national news networks, especially during political season. I don't care what your politics are, but watching these boneheads that we used to call them in college, who now think that they're reporters, and trying to have a conversation with a politician and walking in there and not letting the person who you're interviewing talk.
Yeah.
You're there to ask a question, and they may transition to another topic.
Yeah.
Let them transition, because I guarantee you can come back and re-ask a question later.
Right.
Let them get off what they need to get off. And so I learned, let the person talk, which is what I try to do. It's like, okay, because inevitably it's going to spur about 6 other questions for me.
Yeah.
And now the advantage here is, we're not trying to edit for the sound bite.
Right. No, right.
I don't have to get a 6 to 8 second sound bite to package into a story here. No, we're just having a conversation. People want to tune in and listen to this conversation. Lee, you are an incredible interview. I love hearing what you've got, some great lessons that we can learn, and I want to learn from your experience, because I can't have every experience. So no, but I'm going to let you talk, and I'll interrupt when I'm ready to interrupt. Trust me.
I appreciate it.
I did want to circle back around, because we mentioned it multiple times.
You're upset.
And that's the importance of a team. And the reason I want to bring back to this, because I work probably 80% of what I do is by myself. I'm a solo entrepreneur. I sit at my desk, or I'm in the field working directly with a client doing my thing, right? So I'm working as a solo operator. But that's not to say I don't have people that I rely on in teams. So I wanted to hear from your perspective, having worked in the Army where team is paramount. And surrounding your people. We talked about transitioning, and you talked about gathering that team of people around you. I want to know what were those roles of people that you were trying to gather for that team to transition, and then now that you're working in a civilian sector, obviously for a much larger company than the type of work that I do, but building that team of people that you either report to or that you build around you to support you and your mission in the company. So let's talk about team building and what those teams look like, and what kind of people you should be surrounding yourself with.
What I learned in the Army is that people have a lot of skills that you don't always tap into. So you may have a guy who is a truck driver, and then you have a young lady who is a supply clerk. And that's all you use them for, right? That's what you're supposed to. But getting to know your team, right? Having an intimate knowledge of your team, their family, their goals, their aspirations, things like that, having it, just investing in understanding who they are and having them understand who you are is crucial, right? Because I talked earlier about different types of failures and experiences. And what happens is I go and I fail every day. We talked about how often do you go and you relook and do an after action review. If I say, hey, Doug, I need you to go put them rocks over there, and you take some grass and put it over there, I need to take to myself, what did I miss? How can I better communicate what it is I'm trying to do? What did I do wrong? Right. I want to instill that in them as well. Right. I want them to instill ownership as well. But I have to have the buy-in. They have to understand and know that I care about them as a person before I do as a employee. Right. And I do this, and sometimes it's difficult. For me, it's not, because it's been naturally who I am since day one of working, I guess. I'm a people person. But for some people, I understand it's difficult because you want to not blur the lines. The military helps you to understand how to not blur the lines and still get to know your team, right? I said intimately, it just means knowing them very well. It doesn't mean intimate in ways that people may consider, right? It just means me being intimately knowledgeable of your life, Doug, your aspirations, what's going on, as much as you want to share with me. And I do that with my team by having an open door, by being accessible. I mentioned that earlier as well, by being available. When they have an issue, a problem, whether it be work or personal, they can come to me, and they do. They take advantage of that. And in return, they really perform exceptional at work because they believe in me, I hope. They believe in the mission, my vision that I've given to them based off of the company's mission. And we work very well together. So as far as building a team, I think you have to build the relationships in there. And that doesn't mean you got to go out and drink beers with everybody and party and have fun after work or joke. You can be very serious at work. You can be very, whatever it takes in that environment, because there are different environments, right? But you do have to have a relationship, I believe. A lot of people, obviously, they don't, and they're very successful. But from my perspective, the things that I've learned in the Army, especially if you're saying, hey, I need you to go to that building, knowing damn well that there's people shooting from that building at you. You know what I mean? You got to have a trust and a belief in that person. And it still transfers and translates into the civilian world. You know, I may say, all right, this customer that you got to deal with, they are furious, but I need you to go in there and this is what I need you to do. Right? It's not life or death, but it's a mental strain, when you're dealing with certain things. So for me, just getting the buy-in, understand, having your team understand that, look, I have your best interest at heart. I am an advocate for your success. I need you to help me out too to be successful and have that type of dynamic. Everyone understands, everyone works hard. And I think that's the biggest thing. So you can get anybody. Like I can look, and I started talking about the different skill sets. That helps when you go out and, you're a driver, but you're also a mechanic or something like that. So you're driving and you're doing your routes, and then something happens to the vehicle. All right, well, you can be that first responder for the vehicle because you're also a mechanic for vehicles, right? And a lot of times we don't know unless you're intimately knowledgeable of this person, all of these other things that they can do. Now, be careful for sharing all of these things, like all the extra things that you can do, because some people may take advantage of that, right? Damn, Doug was in broadcasting, so let's put him in front of the camera. And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. I wasn't interviewing back then, but I am familiar with the culture. I am familiar with the environment. I am familiar with these things, right?
Right.
So be mindful of just telling all your stuff, but at the same time, build that trust. And I believe that's the biggest thing, because ultimately, if I don't trust you and you don't trust me, you wouldn't have me on the show, and I wouldn't be talking to you. I mean, it's the little things, you know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, how much now, obviously in the Army, you don't always get to choose your team. A lot of times that's just people are assigned, right?
Yeah.
But in civilian life, we have a lot more control over that. And as an entrepreneur, I definitely I have a lot of control over who I surround myself with.
Yes.
So when you're going out looking for people to be on your team, whether that's your team at work, whether that's your team at home and in your family life, or whatever combination that may look like, if you're into sports and your hobbies and what you're putting people on your team, you choosing.
Yeah.
What are the qualities that you're looking for? What is the mental process that you're kind of going through? It's like, hey, this person could be an asset, or maybe this person may not be a fit.
I don't like people who are real tight. So, because I don't know why they're real tight. Sometimes it's the interview, maybe. But I like people who have personalities, and not anything crazy left or right, but just a solid personality. They're hungry. They present a willingness to learn. They present an understanding of the importance of team. And you can't always get everything that you need from an interview, but these are the things that I'm looking for. I'm looking for more personality. Obviously, you look at the resume, you look at the application, whatever it is that's being presented. But the intangibles, the things that I look at is personality. I look at their willingness to learn, to accept what it is that you're saying, to be a little more open. Some people say all the things that you think or they think you would want to hear. I want to hear what you think, what you got to say, not what I want to hear. And I'm in California now, and you get a lot of that, right? People are a lot more open about whatever the question may be. So I like someone who can speak their mind, who is respectful, who has a good personality, who meets the requirements in their resume, right? And then that's where now it's up to me to get the training in, to make sure that I train them into the, whatever it is that they need to do to fulfill the job, and then also in the culture of the organization, and in the culture of my team. So I know it's really simple. I just like good people. I like good people who can make decisions. I like people who aren't afraid to fail and keep learning how to be better. So that's what I look for. It's hard to find that sometimes in an interview, but I try to find those nuggets. Yeah.
So that's great. I think if you're looking for people that are going to report to you,
Yeah.
if you're building that support staff to support your mission. What about those team members that are maybe on an equal par with you, that are not going to report directly to you? And I'm thinking here again as an entrepreneur, and I know it's a different world, but if I'm reaching out to other professionals who can support what I do, that are not directly that are not reporting to me, or that I'm not reporting to, right? So less vertical, more horizontal relationships. What kind of people are you looking for? What kind of that in that world? How do you relate to that?
Yeah, same thing, but what I really look for with them is what is it called? Specialties, right? I may be lacking in the business acumen. So I want someone who's more business minded, or someone who's good at doing the books, or someone who's good at, taking nature photography. And not, I don't know if you do nature photography, but the things that they specialize in that can complement what it is that we're trying to achieve. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that would be the only thing. I'm always looking for personality because I'm I'm a cheerful type person at heart. You know, I'm serious when I need to be serious, but other than that, I'm kind of even keel. And I think a lot of that is the military. You see so many different things, right? And there's not a lot of highs and lows out here. I mean, there are obviously, but when it comes to work, not really. Then I'm going to get super crazy emotional about a certain thing.
Yeah.
So I like even keel, personality, willing to learn, willing to have an open mind about things, explore, fail, get back up, and then have the things that I'm weak at, and hopefully I have some of the things that they're weak at, so we best complement each other. That's kind of what I'm looking for, and I know that's like super in general, but that's really what I'd be looking for. What I'm looking for.
What we're getting ready to land the plane, as they say here, because we're coming up on about 50 minutes. But I'm curious to know what, given your experience, both military and civilian, what lessons, if you could go back to
Mhm.
that 20-year-old Army enlistee
Yeah.
and say, you know what, if you do A, B, and C that you're not doing now,
Hmm.
what would you go back and tell yourself? What lessons, would you say, really wish I paid attention to this, or I really wish I had done more of that? What would you go back and tell that 20-year-old enlistee to say, whether it's business related, military related, what,
Yeah.
well,
I tell you what, and I think you get this in life. Some people, obviously not. Um, but to take ownership of things. Stop looking to point the finger at other people who you believe um, made you fail. You know what I mean? I was, when I was younger, it was hard to accept responsibility for things for whatever reason. I just chalk it up as immaturity, right? It was always, oh, it was this person or that person. I didn't knock the lamp down if she didn't scream at me, and whatever, right? This is just examples from me and my sister, right? But just having ownership. There is a freeing beauty in owning things, and people don't understand it. And people don't ask why. You know, I could easily say, well, Doug asked me the wrong question, and so that's why this was a failure. Or I could own it and be like, man, I really wasn't prepared to answer that question. Hmm, maybe. Let me do an AAR on myself and reflect and figure out what I can do better. So when this appears again, right? So just having ownership was probably one of the bigger ones. Attention to detail was a great one because I just go through life. I do this and that be it. I don't pay attention to details. If it comes out right, it comes out right. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm just giving you bare minimum. That's 19-year-old me,
yeah.
bare minimum. And now I find myself walking through Walmart sometimes, fixing things on the shelf. They put a little OCD in you in the military, right? Just paying attention to details. This is how this is supposed to look. Why does it not look like this? You know, so attention to detail. These are general ones because they get applied to so many things in your life. And ownership. Because if you're always pointing at somebody else, you're never going to take responsibility to get better. And you got to understand that.
Accountability, that's a tough one for a lot of people
Yeah.
to take on. And I have to I don't remember where I heard it, but I mean, I'm sure you know it. I mean, for every time I point a finger out at somebody, I've got four more pointing back at me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's self accountability. That's
It's
that's
a
a
hard
big one.
It's a hard one, but once you start doing it, it's not. Because it's all, if you change the mentality, and maybe it's not changing the mentality, maybe that's not the right word, but if you're looking to continually get better, yourself. And it takes some time, right? It takes some maturity, it takes some growing up before you start looking at things like that. But if that's your mentality, then you're going to take ownership and you're going to take accountability of a lot of those things because you want to get better. You want to put your best out there. And it's not about failure. Like that's just a word. All right, you wasn't able to achieve this thing. How can I achieve it? How can I better communicate? How can I better, whatever it is, just be better, be more. Those are the things that I strive to do every day. And obviously, I'm not in that mind state all the time. I get upset when things don't go my way at times, right? But then you reset because now you got that mentality. You think once you get through the woe is me, what could I have done better? That's where you start first. Then you start making plans for what everybody else did. But I always start with myself and then go forward. So, yeah.
Well, speaking of yourself, Mr. Lee Jones, what are you working on right now? What's new in your world that you want to talk about? People want to hear more about you and your life story and life lessons.
Oh, life story and life lessons. So, well,
just a small topic.
I know, really quick. I do Hindsight the podcast, and that was, when I was coming through the military, transitioning into civilian world, it was a little challenging, mentally, right? I talked about that earlier, and so I did get with this organization, and they had an alumni group at the end who came in, and they was like, "Hey, I sat in that seat right where you're at. It's going to be okay on the other side once you successfully transition out." So I wanted to be on that alumni, and I was able to be on that alumni panel, but I wasn't able to do it enough. So me and a friend of mine, Eric Gonzalez, we started Hindsight the podcast to give some inspiration and motivation to service members who are transitioning out because it's mentally stressful, especially if you've been in it for a while. And if you did 3 or 4 years in the military, then it's probably a lot easier than if you've done a career to mentally grasp what you're about to jump into. But it's okay. So that's what Hindsight the podcast is about. It's really now about transitions. It's really now about decisions. It's looking back and making better decisions going forward based off of what you know now. You just said, what would you like to know as your 20-year-old self, right? So it's having that opportunity on Hindsight. My guests go and they look back at some bad times, getting fired and, having a transition to entrepreneurial instead of from the corporate world, these things and the challenges that they had to face and what they did to overcome them. So it's an inspirational type podcast. The other thing I told you earlier, you asked me, was I writing a book? Yes, I am writing a book. I don't have a working title right now. And it's really going to be a 3-phase book. So the first one right now is getting to know who you are. That's super important because right now, a lot of us don't know who we are. We know who other people want us to be or what other people think we are, right? And we play that role in life, in our lives. We play what other people think we should be in our own life for them, right? So now this first book is about figuring out who you are, and it's about being honest. So it's 30 questions that you ask yourself, and it's based off of the calendar. So obviously February right now it wouldn't work out, but
just do a couple of days back, a couple pages back. It'll work out.
Absolutely. And that it does share in some of those life lessons that I learned. So I have a question and then I'll go through the mentality that I had or an experience that I had that resonates with that question. So you get to know a little bit about me. And what it also does is it gives you an example. Oh yeah, well, maybe I should look at it this way. It wants you to be in a clear space. And just because it's 30 for 30 days, take as much time as it requires for you to really dig into that question and figure out who you are, to be honest with yourself because it's you. You know what I mean? When we was in the military, we do push-ups and sit-ups and we get tired and we stop and they drill sergeants come over and say, don't cheat your body, right? You're cheating yourself if you don't explore who it is that you are and you're living for everybody else as opposed to knowing who you are. So the next book, when that one's finished, and it's probably about 75% done, Doug. But the whole thing is just a cycle of getting to your future self.
Yeah.
Next one will focus on goals. The final one will focus on what it is, that you're looking for in your future self and what that looks like. So I got a ways to go. I'm on book number 1, but that's the idea behind the whole concept, is to really figure out who you are and who you're supposed to be and who you're gonna be, your future self.
Well, good luck with the book, man. Getting
Yeah,
the first one written is always the hardest.
it is.
Um,
It is. It is. It is.
the next one's come a little easier. I've written, well, technically I've written 3 books. We'll call
Okay.
one of them published. But yeah, getting that first one, that's the hardest one to get done, man.
So busy critiquing and editing, and it's just like, just get it done and let someone else edit it. So
Yeah. Well,
so
just remember the old adage, perfect is the enemy of done.
that's it. That's it. I know these things. But I can't stop. So
Look, I'm an artist. I get it. I mean, we went to Greece 3 years ago, coming out of the pandemic, and of course I took my camera and we had a great time. It was a fantastic trip. And my wife still hasn't seen the pictures that I took because I refused to because they're not up to my standards.
No, I feel you.
They're not up to my. She's like, I don't care. I still want to. They're not up to my standards. So I get
know. I stopped doing photography a little bit because I did a wedding. I did a few weddings, but the last wedding I did was very taxing, and so now,
man, that's
they're hard.
I refuse.
They're hard, and it's not that they're hard; they're just time consuming. The editing, to your point, it's got to be. This is I got to edit. Contract, whatever it is, right? That you're doing. It's just it's a lot mentally, and then you're under pressure. They're like, "Hey, where's my pictures?"
Yeah, where's my pictures? Or where's Aunt Susie? Why didn't you get a picture of Aunt Susie? Did you tell me Aunt Susie was there? Did you point her out to me?
It's hard.
No, I there's a reason why I don't do weddings. I don't do bar mitzvahs. I don't do babies in baskets.
Yeah.
When I'm working with clients, it's on the commercial level, and I thoroughly enjoy working with businesses, helping them solve their image collateral needs and promoting their teams with headshots and whatnot. And that's really what I do with my photography professionally.
Yeah.
Now, when it's me playing, I still don't do weddings. But but when we travel, because we travel, the kit comes with me, and then it's making those decisions. Okay, how much of my kit do I really want to lug around Europe for 2 weeks?
You sound like me. and the other thing is, like, my wife, she'll say, "I haven't seen those pictures from blah blah blah," right? I'm right. I'm still editing them, So I get it. But photography is fun. It's so fun. When I was younger, where we at time? When I was younger, I used to draw a lot.
Yeah.
And so I stopped drawing, and I got a camera when I was in the Army and started taking pictures. And I love the beauty, the creativity that you can do with it, right? And as you learn more techniques, the more creative you can be, and you can do a lot of storytelling in photographs. So anyway, that's my spill on there. I do photography as well.
Well, it's a great hobby for anyone who's interested, and I've had the opportunity to give a few private lessons, and because there's so much to it that people don't know, and it's so much more than just pointing and clicking. But it's a great hobby, and it can be expensive, but it doesn't have to be. It's like, okay, you just have to remember the camera's a tool.
Yeah.
The actual photography happens up here.
Yeah.
It's in that gray matter in between your ears. That's where the photograph is created. Everything else just is a tool to get here to there to the final print, right? So
and I was gonna say, it's not just point and shoot, but point and shoot. If that's all you got, that's all you got, because those memories, doesn't matter how crisp it is, if it's blurry, but Auntie is smiling her butt off, and maybe, God bless her, now she's passed away. Like, you're gonna want that photo. So I encourage anyone to get out and stop being so shy and being, I don't want to be in a photo, right? That's just me, because those memories are everything. especially if it's digital. Like you can just take as many photos as you want.
Yeah, look, we carry these little
Yeah.
miniature pocket computers with us that we euphemistically call phones.
Pull your phone out.
Great camera built in. If that's
Yeah.
what you've got to create a memory of your kids as they're eating ice cream at the
All
park,
of that. Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to study photography, that's a different story. But you look,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with snapshots.
No, not at all.
No, we got photo. If you remember photo albums, that's how old we are. But I mean, photo albums of nothing but snapshots. That
I got a bunch of
nothing
them.
wrong
Yeah.
with snapshots.
Yeah.
So,
Telling the story is a whole nother thing.
yeah.
But okay.
Well, let's wrap it up there. Hey, Lee, thanks so much for joining me today, guys. If you've really enjoyed this, be sure to stay tuned. I do this. I try to do this about every other Monday. We'll go live on LinkedIn and on YouTube, and then everything's obviously it's recorded. So we want to get your feedback. What do you like? What do you don't like? What do you want to see more of? This is I'm out there just because this is how I learn, right? This is how I grow as an artist. This is how I grow as an entrepreneur. And I hope it's of value to you. So want to hear back from you. Be sure to chime in on the comments. Lee, thank you so much. Appreciate your time in the service as well as your time today. It's all about getting out there and meeting new people. And if I can be of help to you, you've got my contact information. And for those of you who don't have my contact information, I'll just throw it up there real quick. That's my website. So feel free. I'd love to talk to you about your commercial photography needs, and we'll throw up Lee's website. Just give him some love. Reach out to Lee there at I am Lee Jones. I know he'd love to reach out to you as well. Thanks so much. And we'll see you on the next one.
All right. Thank you.